And with crime and violence rampant in Americans' inner cities, are investigations like the one into Baltimore's police department missing the real problem? Joining me now, Fox News senior correspondent, of course, who was on the scene throughout the Baltimore ordeal, Geraldo Rivera. Geraldo, it's good to see you. You were at the funeral.
I was at the wake and met the parents, Raymond and Irene Moore. Raymond was a New York City police sergeant himself, and to lose their only son, a 25-year-old. And what gets me, this split screen that unfortunately the Justice Department made necessary of Loretta Lynch, the new Attorney General, announcing the probe into the Baltimore police, the death in the hands of the Baltimore police of 25-year-old Freddie Gray. How is it that the 25-year-old career criminal's life is more important than the 25-year-old New York City cop's life? I thought it was very tone-deaf of Washington not to reschedule. I'm not suggesting that there's not police brutality and probably or perhaps a reason to investigate the Baltimore PD, as they will be investigating San Francisco and other places. But I think to do it on this day was awful.
Well, I think a lot of police feel like this is political, that the results of this investigation will probably come as the election cycle is heating up in 2016. Clearly there are excesses probably in many police departments across the country, but a pattern in practice, it's a serious allegation. And half of the officers, I think 3 of the officers who were charged were African American, 3 were white. Folks don't talk about that.
The only sergeant in the lower right, Alicia White, is
and yet the idea that this was racially motivated really is still prevalent. I think you saw it on the streets. The F the police shirts, screaming at the police, insulting the police. It's got to be really, really hard today, just not only because it's dangerous, but just demoralizing to be a police officer in many jurisdictions in this country today.
I was there when Elijah Cummings, the longtime congressman from West Baltimore, was urging the people of the neighborhood to get off the streets, and I thought he did a good job doing that. But he also said in interviews he gave at the time that he thought the civil rights issue of our time was policemen shooting unarmed black men or black men. And at the same time, realizing that 8 black men had killed other black men in the few days before he said that, I would submit that that's the civil rights issue of our time. Now, we need confidence in urban policing. We need integration in urban policing. That's why you have civilian complaint review boards.
Right, and that's why you had a Democrat leadership of the city since 1963, the last time a Republican was actually elected mayor of Baltimore.
That is a clear issue. Yeah. Baltimore has to be rethought. There are 2 Baltimores at least, 35,000
But Geraldo, you've talked about this before. I mean, it is hard for a kid to make it in a neighborhood, not just because there's not as much money in his family as another family, but because maybe he doesn't have a family who cares about him. Maybe there's no father, maybe there's no role model, maybe there's no one who gives a you-know-what about him, like that one mother who called at her son and said, "You're not going to do that." But she cared. Yep. She cared, and the country noticed that. We need parents who care.
These cops are thrust into the most dysfunctional areas. The conflicts they have with these young men are almost inevitable given the context of disorder, of dysfunction, of anarchy, of violence. It's very difficult. It brings out the worst in everybody.
And I would say when you have a jobs deficit still, even with the jobs numbers that came out, we have a lot of able-bodied men and women of adult working age, record numbers not in the workforce, not participating in the workforce. And yet we have a lot of policies that are being pushed by both parties that I would submit make it a lot harder for a lot of these young black men to get jobs. Immigration is something I think needs to be discussed.
You and I can do...
Well, no, I'm not talking about the principle of immigration. I'm talking about the strategy of helping the kids who need the most help get jobs that pay a decent wage.
Absolutely. Why not have Republican philosophy put to work to cure the urban center, the rotten core?
Flooding the country with low-wage workers doesn't help those kids who need entry-level jobs.
If you want to debate immigration, we can come back and do that. But what I would do is why not give sweat equity in those homes that are abandoned, are derelict, and now are shooting galleries for junkies? Why not give them construction trades to rebuild those homes? How can you have 35,000?
A lot of those would be taken by illegal immigrants, I fear. And
well, I think that you obsess about immigrants without documentation.
Should they get preference?
I think Hillary Clinton's move was brilliant, by the way, and I think that unless a Republican embraces expanses, I don't know how we got on immigration, but unless the Republican candidate embraces a much more expansive view,
do you think those kids should get priority in jobs?
They are not getting priority, Laura. I don't know where. I think that you seize on anecdotal
Okay, I just think we agree they should get priority.
The priority should be just and based on whatever the equity
kids
of the moment is. I mean, should all the privileged kids get all the internships and all the great jobs?
No, I don't think they should. I totally agree with you.
Right.
Anyway, you did a great job in Baltimore. I love watching
and you can't wake up thinking about immigrants.
All right.